programs, and welcome to the latest edition of the Awesome Friday podcast. We are joined by a special guest this week. My name is Matthew, and with me, as always, is Simon. Say hi, Simon.
Hi, it's very nice of you to introduce me as a special guest after all these years of doing this together. I feel like this is the next level of respect that I'm gaining, so thank you so much.
Well, to be fair, you're not the special guest, you're the regular guest. Our special guest is director Avalon Fast of new release to the Slamdance Film Festival, Honeycomb. Say hello, Avalon.
Hi, everybody.
Thanks for joining us today.
Yes,
and your ridiculously impressive movie collection behind you, which I'm scanning. That's going to be, most of my questions will be about that shelf behind you.
Today's going to be a little different because we have a guest. And why don't we, first off, Avalon, why don't you just give us the Coles Notes version of Avalon Fast, your background and so on.
Okay. So I started making movies when I was really little, and I started doing it more professionally in high school. I made like a couple short films, and then Honeycomb is my first feature that was made by myself and all of my friends. No like professional actors or anything. It's all very homegrown. And yeah, we just got into Slamdance, and it's been craziness ever since then. So
I can only imagine. And the film was made up on Cortez Island, right?
Yeah, that's right.
And you're from there, or you're from, like, we're in Vancouver, so you're from...
Right. Yeah, I'm from Sayward, which is on Vancouver Island. Really, really small town. But I went to high school in Campbell River, and I spent a lot of time on both Quadra and Cortez. And my family ended up having a place on Cortez in like the later part of my high school life, so I hung out there all summer.
Nice. And really, you just sort of did the thing, right? Like was this like a lockdown project, and you were like, fuck it, let's make a movie, or like what happened?
No, we actually filmed it the summer of 2019, so before any COVID stuff. It was, I mean, I want to make movies, and I was like, I wrote this script, and I was like, who's going to do this with me? And everyone was down to do it, so just happened.
and it is just like your friends and peers and like just wrangled everyone you could, basically.
Yeah, there's no like outside source that's been helping us, so it's just us.
Crazy.
Well, congratulations on making a movie, like, first of all, because I've been involved in that as well, and I know the amount of work that goes into it, like especially something that's clearly a passion project for you.
Yeah.
And there's no money anywhere. No. Like it's all creativity. So it must be kind of surreal now to see this thing out in the open, to be in a film festival, to be like interviewed about the thing you made. That people are now watching. Like, has that kind of sunk in for you yet? How does that feel?
Yeah, it's like, I mean, it's what I've wanted, so it feels good. But it is overwhelming, and I told everybody, when we were making it, I was like, this is going to be a lot different than what we've done in the past. Like, I want people to see this. I want it to, have a premiere and get released. And now that that's actually happening, it's just like, it is surreal. And it's really exciting.
That's cool. When you were filming this and you were making it with all your mates, and I don't know how autobiographical these characters are, these people that you went to school with, were there any of your friends turning to you going, is this me? Like, is this terrible person me? Like, are they all suddenly paranoid about what you think of them?
The characters were definitely written for my friends specifically. So, a lot of it is just their personalities, but enhanced and a little more dramatic. But yeah,
a little more. That's
just a little bit.
Yeah.
But yeah, I wrote these characters for my friends, so they're loosely based off of who they are.
Sure. What kind of inspirations did you have coming into this? Like, did you have any specific films or texts that you were like, this is the kind of thing I want to make? Like, I got some real Picnic at Hanging Rock vibes off of it, for example.
Yeah, people have said that. I honestly, because I get this question a bit, and I kind of try to like bullshit it sometimes, but it's like, I realized the other day, I was like, all these things that I use as my inspirations, I watched afterwards, or didn't, like weren't the thing. Honestly, I think I was more just inspired by my friends and like what life felt like for me. I read The Girls by Emma Cline, which is like a book about like the Manson cult stuff, but from like the perspective of like a young woman, and that definitely was inspiring. But it wasn't like, oh, I'm gonna try to make something like this or about this or related to this. That was just something I read in my life that made its way to this a little bit. But yeah, it was mostly just me and my friends and being inspired by them. So.
Do you have a problem getting like not trying to recreate your favorite movies? This is a problem I have when I ever
Right.
direct anything. It's like, oh, I'm doing this shot from this film, and
Right.
maybe I shouldn't do that. Maybe I should do something like original.
Yeah, there's
Do you have that problem?
definitely, yeah, there's some shots like, I mean, when I was writing the script, I'd be like, oh, this is kind of like this movie, and that would be
Mhm.
exciting because it's stuff that I do admire. And um yeah, so there's definitely a couple things like that. I can't think of any like off the top of my head, but I understand what you mean.
Mhm. It's difficult, I guess, when you're so close to it as well. When
Hmm.
it's something you've written and it's all yours completely from beginning to end.
Yeah. Yeah,
Did it change much in editing as well? Like your initial vision for this when you're actually in the editing room, did it kind of evolve there as well, or was it pretty much your vision from beginning to end?
Yeah, well, I did my own editing as well. So, like,
Mm.
it stayed pretty true to what I wanted, but I mean, since it was such a interesting production while we were actually filming, we missed some scenes and things got changed around. And so I think while I was editing, it was a lot of improvisation, like how are we going to fix this? How do we make this make more sense? A lot of sound editing that I didn't want to have to do, stuff like that. And then we actually really wanted to apply to or submit to Fantastic Fest, and they would only take features that were an hour and 10 minutes long, and ours was an hour. And I was like, we'll just make it 10 more minutes. So
Quick
a lot
director's
of those,
cut.
yeah, a lot of those like animated, like the claymation stuff, the
Mhm,
letters, that was all actually shot in Victoria, like in my room, like a couple months before it was finished. So
mhm.
yeah, some things
Wow.
changed.
Well, that sort of Cole's note, the synopsis of the movie, for those of you who in the audience, all 12 of you who haven't seen it, is about these young girls who sort of like go off grid to live together for an indeterminate amount of time. But um, one of the sort of key things in the narrative for me is this idea that in their house rules they establish this revenge rule where if someone wrongs another, the other one gets to do something quote of equal damage back. And I just have to ask, like, where did that come from?
Yeah,
Yeah,
who are you projecting on?
yeah, that I think it's kind of like that idea of like an eye for an eye or like fighting fire with fire, like it's what you want to do. Somebody hurts you, you want to hurt them back, right? Like that's like a
Mhm.
human instinct, but that is like always like I've never seen that work out in like a positive way. But it sounds good and it makes sense, but it doesn't work in real life. So I think that's where that came from for me. Suitable revenge.
were you trying to like say anything in particular about that, or just that it doesn't work? Or
I guess yeah, just that like it's dangerous to have that mindset, you know? Bad things can happen.
sure, sure.
Yeah.
It's kind of terrifying for me with a soon to be 8-year old daughter, like watching these young girls like, I'm just leaving. I'm leaving for this cabin,
Yeah.
and I'll see you when I see you. It's like
Mhm.
it's a bit of a it's quite shocking even to begin with, and
Mhm.
then it just carries on being more shocking. So,
Yeah.
the can I really want to ask you about the framing of the boys versus the girls, and I don't know, maybe I'm reading too much into it, but whenever you had your ensemble of girls together, their heads were really low in the frame, and we got lots of the wilderness above them, like lots
Yeah.
of sky, lots of trees. But when your boys come in, everyone's much more like typical, like third up,
Yeah.
centralized. You lose that nature. Am I reading too much into this, or was that intentional?
With like a lot of these things, like it's like I don't know if I wrote that down or made that like a note to do those kind of things, but like it was intentional because we did it, you know, like it's weird, but you know what I mean, like that's how we wanted those shots. And I see what you're saying, and I might have even had that thought at the time, but it's honestly been so long now that I'm like, it wasn't something I wrote down, but it's a really interesting, because and now that I think about that, it's like I could see that being like the girls are almost like in a more like dream world state, like there's more in their life, right? Like they're more like surreal. That's how I see that.
Yeah, I mean, I noticed it like quite near the end. I was like, oh, especially when like the new girl turns up and it's very like fairy-like and
ethereal,
it's very dream-like, and yeah, absolutely. I was like, oh, that's got to be intentional.
I mean, yes, I did definitely have more like the boy scenes are going to be drab. They're going to be like, you know, talking over each other, and not that like beautiful, like mystical. Definitely that was a big thing for me. And then any shots of the girls, it's like we're dressing them up super cute. They're gonna have sparkles, and it's gonna be sunny and gorgeous, and yeah.
It's interesting you mentioned about the boys. I wanted to ask you about that as well, because I noticed the girls, when the girls spoke, it was very prescriptive, and you could hear every line clearly, and it almost felt the boys, they were doing that wonderful style of acting where you're not sure if it's like improvisation or if they're just really good at like overlapping their lines. Like what was your, and it gave them that real like scrappiness compared to the organized like little group of the girls. Did you tell the boys just to like, I just talk about this, go just laugh about this, or was that scripted?
Most of their conversations were still scripted. Honestly, what would happen sometimes is that I would like I'd start recording. I'd be like, "Okay, go," and they'd still be in the middle of their conversation. And then it would ruin at some point. They'd be like, "Oh, okay, we're gonna start in with our lines now," and that worked because it seems very real. But their lines were still scripted in a way that was way more casual. Like the girls were supposed. It was like, I mean, that's kind of like that culty thing, right? Like it doesn't make sense the way the girls are talking, and that kind of like rigidness in their lines was very intentional. It's like uncomfortable, and yeah, like why are you talking like that? Like what's going on? And then the boys were supposed to be kind of like, you know, in a way like a little more like less intelligent, you know. That was kind of
like,
what I was trying to get out
like
with that,
boys,
right?
Like boys,
Yeah. Yeah.
No, you're right.
Yeah. I mean, a lot of the movie does feel very much like, you know, the girls are out there like actively constructing their reality, and the boys are like, girls. So let's go hang out with the pretty girls, which is kind of like real life, you know. It's
yeah, except for PJ's character was like that one that was like, I'm not gonna stand for this, like a sort of like envy. I think it was like in, you know, their character, like they weren't chill just going and hanging out with the girls. They had to understand it. They wanted more. Yeah, so that was a favorite character of mine for that reason. It was like he just wasn't standing for it like all the other guys. They were like, we don't care. He was like, no, what's going on?
Well, so how has the response to the film been through the festival so far? Like, I mean, I liked it. Simon, I think, was fine with it at least. Has it been positive response so far, or?
Yeah, generally, like our actual like reviews by reviewers and critics have been really awesome. Like it's so cool to see people caring that much or putting that much effort into writing a review about something I made. That was something I used to do also when I lived in Vancouver. I was like a film critic for a while on a podcast, and so that was something I did, and so it's super cool to see people like caring so much. Our letterboxd reviews are mixed, and I love that because I knew that was going to happen, because for some people this is just like not going to make sense, and I think that's really common with horror in general. But yeah, most of the bad reviews, they just make me laugh. It'll be something like 1 star, incomprehensible, like 1 star for the guts to make this, like that kind of thing, and I'm like, hell yeah, like I'm fine with that.
That's the thing with folk horror, though, isn't it? I mean, you don't watch The Wicker Man or Midsummer and go, "Oh, I understood exactly how those movies ended." Fantastic, yeah. There's definitely nothing mysterious going on in that forest.
Yeah.
Can I ask you about the poem? So that, unless I blinked, that was a single take of your actress floating and reciting and acting. Like,
Mhm.
how many takes how long did that take to get it like that? Or was that just one magic take?
No, yeah, that took I would say like 15 takes. That
Wow.
was really intense. Also because that spot on Cortez is like a public hangout. So
Mm.
there was a lot of people like in and out, and we were like, whatever, we're just gonna be annoying. So we do the whole like quiet on set thing at like this public beach. We were like, whatever. Nobody knows we're not like supposed to be here. But I think it was really stressful for Sophie because it was just an intense thing, and everyone had to be really quiet. It wasn't like any of our other scenes where we're with all of our friends. That was like a really true actor moment for
Mm.
her, I think. And yeah, and that poem is by a quadra poet who recently passed away, actually. But the poem's called "Seize the Time," and so that monologue was half something I'd interpreted from the poem, and then half his own words.
Wow.
Yeah.
So now that you have, sorry, Simon, go ahead.
No, I was just wondering if that was one of those moments, if one of those ideas we're like, we'll never pull this off. Like, this will never work. And they're like, holy shit, I actually did that. And I pressed record and we've got it.
Yeah. I remember looking at the footage. We were so nervous because also with the mic and the water and like the people around, like I was like, that was one of our biggest challenges, honestly, was sound. And there was somebody like almost right over her with the mic, like leaning off the rocks, right? Like, and it didn't get in the shot, and the sound was good, and we couldn't really check it out like on while we were filming. So when I got it back to my place, and Henry and I, who actually took the shot, watched it, we were like, wow, okay, we did it. Like,
Yeah.
that like makes
awesome.
our movie right now.
Yeah. Sorry, Matt, I interrupted you.
No, that's okay. I was going to change tack entirely, so this was a better question to ask. So all of the people involved, I mean, I guess they weren't, but are now, professional actors and film people. So, I mean, does anyone in the cast have aspirations of carrying on, or was this just like, oh yeah, Avalon asked me to be in a movie, that's cool, but is anyone now like, oh, I'm an actor now?
Yeah, Henry, who played PJ, they've wanted to be an actor forever. That's why we've involved them so often. And they're definitely going to continue doing that, and hopefully with me as well, because we're going to keep making movies. And Sophie as well did a lot of theater acting in high school and definitely wants to continue. And I think most of the main cast at this point, now that we've gotten like recognized for this, are thinking about it so much more than they had been. Like even last night, Rowan came up to me, who played Millie. It's like, I'm making a portfolio. Like, I think that this is something I want to do. And I'm like, cool. Like, that's awesome. Yeah, it feels good.
Yeah. Can I ask you about makeup effects? Like, I'm asking all the really interesting technical stuff. Because like makeup is not easy to do, even when you've got a lot of money to do it. And I wasn't expecting to see the actual like injuries
Right.
when they rolled her out of the mattress, because I mean you knew what was happening, you knew it was coming, but it's like tell don't show, when you haven't got any money to show like these awesome makeup effects. Like, oh yeah, she's dead. Don't worry, trust me, she's covered in bee stings. It's horrific.
Yeah, we can
but you
allude
actually
to it.
yeah, you actually showed us
that
horrific, and it was good. Like, who did those bee sting makeup effects? Because they were super good.
Yeah, there's somebody I knew who actually used to do film critic work with me in Vancouver. Her name's Beck Jordan, and she was in makeup school at the time. And so we actually brought this is actually interesting. We brought just Rowan, who played Millie, out to Vancouver. She stayed at my apartment there, and we shot that in the field outside of my apartment. With just like completely different setting. It was months later. We hadn't thought about Honeycomb in so long, and then Beck came over and did the makeup, and I was like, wow, like it just worked out. We just knew somebody who was good at it. Yeah.
You know the right people. You have the right friends, basically.
Yeah,
don't you?
exactly.
That's awesome. That's cool.
So the kind of movie magic stuff always makes me smile because it's always like, oh yeah, we filmed it 3 months later in a different place at a different time, isn't it?
Yeah,
Like,
I know. So interesting.
yeah.
How difficult was it for you to let this thing go and say this is done? Because I can't ever like stop. Like it's like iterations in my head. I wake up in the morning and go, okay, this needs one more shot here, or this
Yeah.
edit needs to be like half a second snappier, or this like. Did you find it hard to like let this thing go and say, right, this is it, this is done?
Yeah, I remember we had a lot of these nights where I would show it to a bunch of my friends and be like, okay, if there's anything, if you notice anything that I need to fix, write it down, let me know. And then we'd finish the movie and they'd all have like one or two things. And I'd be like, okay, so I'd fix it. And then I have to have another night like that, because then I'm like, I have to watch it again. So we probably did that like 5 times, just,
Oh, wow.
yeah. And I remember the last one, somebody said something. They were like, the sound on that. And I was like, it's fine. I was like,
yeah, that's intentional. That adds to the dreamlike atmosphere. It's fine.
Yeah, exactly. I can just pretend like that's how I wanted it.
Yeah.
Well, so with Honeycomb now being in the festival and good response, do you have any other festivals coming up, or?
Yeah, I'm actually not sure if I'm allowed to like talk about. For sure I'm allowed to talk about. I got into the George Lindsay Festival in Alabama, which is very exciting, and they're actually flying me down there to go hang out. And I'll be there with the guys that did Therapy Dogs as well. They're also Canadians, and they were in
Oh,
Slamdance.
nice.
Yeah, so I'll get to meet up with them, and then I think also the people from Sylvie and the Sunshine State. So that'll be really fun to kind of get that moment of hanging out with filmmakers in real life. But yeah, some other exciting ones, but I don't think I'm allowed to like talk about it yet because it hasn't like become a thing in public. So
that's cool. Secret film stuff. That's when you know you've made it. It's like, no,
yeah.
sorry, NDAs. What's the now like Honeycomb's done and it's out in the world? What's as a director? What's the lesson you've learned from it that you're going to do different next time? Like what did it teach you?
I think it, a lot of people like, oh, this must have been so much fun. You made it with your friends, and like that was so much fun, and I want them to be involved in the future. But I need a lot of support. Like this was like something that like honestly like challenged my relationships with everybody who was working on it with me because I was in this boss role, and in a way, like at that time at least, it felt like it was just my dream. Like I was like, I'm the one kind of making this happen, and so I think in the future like I just need more support because it was honestly really challenging that summer. Yeah, so like a film crew, people that are interested in doing it and hopefully are getting paid so that they have to do it. Yeah.
I know that's the balance, isn't it? At least when you are doing absolutely everything, you don't have to negotiate with anyone because you know exactly what you want, you know exactly how to do it. But
yeah,
it's tough. That's extremely tough to do everything.
Yeah, it was.
Do you have your next project lined up? Do you have a story like circling inside your head?
Yeah. Yes. I wrote a screenplay. I wrote a feature screenplay before Christmas. It's called Camp. It's about this girl. She goes through like some really big tragedies early on in her life. She's all kind of screwed up, and she ends up going to the summer camp to instruct other kids that have kind of had like screwed up lives. And then it gets into some witchy, culty things there as well. So very on brand for us. Yeah.
Are you gonna have your friends involved in that one too, or are you seeking more professional help?
I think definitely more professional help, kind of behind the scenes, and also hopefully hiring like some professional actors just to honestly meet new people as well, But any of my friends that want to be involved, we're just gonna have auditions and like make it for real this time and see who is the best.
Nice.
Yeah.
Do you have something in that genre that from your extensive stack behind you that is your one movie that you're like, if I can make a movie as good as this, like I'll die happy? Like,
Yeah.
what's that one film for you?
It's Mandy. by Panos Cosmatos.
Really,
Oh.
that's an intense choice.
You like that film, don't you, Matt? I haven't seen it.
That's a film that I don't know if "like" is the right word, but I feel like literally everyone should at least experience it.
Yeah.
Because
I
it is
love
an intense experience.
that. It's so intense, and just so like the combination. I love like mixed media in films as well, like the animation and the like surreal like magic element there. Like that's how I want to make films. I want
Yeah,
the money to be able to make films like that.
yeah, I can't imagine the level of artistic freedom it must that guy must have. Because
Yeah,
and
so
just,
cool.
I mean, we could talk about Mandy forever and never unpack everything that
Yeah.
is in it. It's so weird and interesting and compelling and upsetting.
Yeah.
And I hope you get there. That's because that's like yeah.
What would you say when you were like growing up? What were the films that really got you started you down this path of like wanting to tell your own stories? What were the films that got you when you were young?
The first film that really stuck with me, and I was like, "Oh wow, movies are cool." I was probably
Mm.
like 10 years old, and somebody left American Beauty at my house.
Mm.
That was a weird time.
That's a hell of a way to start.
Yeah, that's honestly still one of my favorite movies. It's like a comfort film for me, which is so creepy. But
Wow.
Moonrise Kingdom, my dad took me to. We watched that in theaters together when I was
Mhm.
also pretty young, and I was like, "That's so cool! Like that looks so fun, right?" I was like,
Mhm.
"I want to be there. I want to be them." Um,
Mhm.
and then later on, I watched Lady Bird when I was in my grade 12 year, and that it was just so inspiring for me to see a movie that was so cool and so well written and also written by a female. It was just really
Mhm.
inspiring.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
It's a very good cross section of films too.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, well, is there anything just before we move on to talking about the festival, because we're coming up on half an hour now? So, is there anything about the movie that people aren't asking about that you kind of wish they were?
Good question. Not really. People there's been so
Interesting.
many honestly, like nothing I can think of. I love hearing all the questions people have, and people get pretty creative with them. Honestly, the makeup thing, I'm glad you brought that up in this, because I haven't gotten to shout her out. I wish people were asking more about the score, honestly, because that was like a fucking masterpiece for Max. Like I love that so much, and I want to be able to shout him out all the time for what he did there.
That was my first question that I didn't actually ask
Oh,
because it
really?
wasn't a question. I didn't have a question. It was more like the opening 2 minutes. Like what the fuck? What made those sounds? And
Yeah.
can I have the painting
Yeah.
wherever it is? And
Yeah.
I was listening through my headphones. I had the volume up really loud, and I was like,
Yeah.
this makes me feel physically uncomfortable. Like this juxtaposition of all these scrapes and like scraping sounds and violin sounds and what what kind of let's ask about the score. Like where did he find that? And were you worried about starting with like that, like nightmare fuel of an introduction?
No, I was stoked. When he sent me that, he was like, "What about this for the opener?" And originally, it was a different, less scary version of that track, and I was like, "Yeah, this is great." And then, he honestly, I think, which as we all do, got like progressively like way better at what he was doing. Throughout the 3 years that we were doing this, so we kind of started with this like amount of tracks, and then we changed almost all of them by the end,
Mhm.
and they got a lot better. So that was cool, because that was something we were like right up until like the last month that we were finishing things, he was still making me new music, and still does. Like we made a teaser trailer the other day, and he made that track as well. Like he's so talented. I don't know how he does it. I've sat with him, um and he'll just do like something on his guitar, suddenly it'll be on his computer, suddenly it sounds nothing like what I just heard, and I'm just like, I have no idea what he's doing, but I'm so grateful to have a friend like that who can do that for me.
And it must be so great when he's clearly on the same wavelength. Like everything he's making
Yeah.
is like tied into what the vision of this should be and what it should feel like as well.
Yeah, exactly.
That's such a great person to have around.
Yeah.
And sorry, just because we're shouting him out, what was his name again? Max?
Max Graham, yeah.
Max Graham. So yeah, any other filmmakers who are listening to this, Max Graham. Just that's the name you want to know.
Yeah, thanks, Max.
Yeah.
Thanks for that first 5 minutes. Greatly appreciated.
Good. Well, shall we move on to just talking about Slamdance a little bit more generally? Simon, I know you saw a grand total of one film?
And it was yours. Thank you very much.
Nice.
I feel that was a good choice.
Yeah.
I actually had.
What were your favorites then?
Yeah, I actually had a much busier week, 2 weeks than I expected. So I only saw about half a dozen. How many did you actually watch, Avalon?
I think, yeah, including shorts, I would say around that, 67. They're still streaming this weekend, so I'm hoping to try to catch on like everything tomorrow, hopefully. Because I want to, but it's been also like a crazy week. But yeah, I watched some really good ones.
Yeah. So what's the first one that you would like to talk about? And fair warning, you'll probably have to tell us all about it. So.
I watched Hannah Haha, which they won the narrative feature category yesterday for like best jury award, which is super exciting and so like what a great choice because that film was it's so cool. It's kind of like a slice of life film focused on this younger woman who she has like this annoying older brother who's like trying to get her to get a job that's more like serious because she's like been working on this farm, and so it's just kind of her going. It's like this small thing that is so real and so big, and really like affects her life, and they just do it so beautifully. And I watched that film, and then later that night, Jordan Tukowski, the director, just like called me over Instagram, was like, I just watched your movie, like let's talk. And I was like, oh my gosh, I just watched yours. So we had like this really fun conversation about that. So that one really stuck with me. Sylvia the Sunshine State I watched and loved it. Honestly, like I was just so entertaining. Like it was so fun for me to like see this world. It's a documentary, right, about her and her daughter when they're like stuck in quarantine, and so that was really interesting. And Old Boys Apples was a short in the animations category, and that was so beautiful and gave me like a similar vibe to like things I like to make. And then Therapy Dogs as well, and shout out Canada.
Yeah, Therapy Dogs is another one that I will hopefully get to tonight. That I very much wanted to see. And I'm actually as of right now halfway through Hannah Haha. So yeah.
Did you watch Love Tasting?
I have not yet. No. So the other ones that I've seen that I would actually like to talk about. I was about to say, did you guys? But I know Simon didn't. So, I watched a film called The Civil Dead.
I haven't seen it yet, but I want to.
Yeah. Super interesting story, directed and I believe starring Clay Tatum.
Okay.
And it's about a young man who he's in his 30s, and he's a photographer, and one day he runs into an old friend from high school, and it turns out that the old friend is dead, and and he is the only person who can see his old friend.
Okay.
And so they have this weird ongoing relationship where basically the old friend, whose name is Whit, has been unable to interact with the world for a period of time that we don't know, and he's like desperate for any kind of companionship. Yeah. And Clay finds him really annoying.
Okay. Yeah.
Because he's so desperate.
Yeah.
And it's really interesting. Like, it's a very indie movie, but in like the best way, like it's. Yeah. Their interplay and their chemistry together is pretty great. They're super sincere but awkward, and the film has probably a lot to unpack about like loneliness and companionship, and super super interesting watch. It's the kind of thing that's going to definitely land on like Netflix or something in the
Okay.
next year, right? Like
Cool.
it'll get picked up by someone.
Yeah. Yeah, that's on my list for sure.
Yeah. I also watched another Canadian film called Retrograde,
Me too. Yeah.
which is an exercise in frustration, which is about a young woman who gets a very minor traffic ticket, and undeservedly, and the rest of the movie is basically her fighting this traffic ticket. Which,
is this the Canadian falling down?
I mean, it would be, but it's more just about how frustrating it is to confront the machine, and it's over something. So, like, everyone else in the movie is like, just pay the fine.
Yeah.
Just pay the fine. And she's like, it's the principle of the thing. And so it's like 85 minutes of her fighting a fruitless battle against the bureaucracy that is the provincial government because she has like a $100 ticket that she feels she didn't deserve. I don't know if anyone here has ever gotten a traffic ticket and tried to fight it, but I definitely have come down on the side of like, I could fight this, or I could just pay the $85.
Sounds very Kafka-esque. I'll watch that, definitely. That sounds great.
It's honestly, it's super well produced. It's beautifully shot. All of the acting is very sincere and believable and organic. And there's a great scene in the middle where she's asked her roommate to just like come to the hearing because the roommate was in the car at the time, and she's asked the roommate to come to the hearing and be like, this was unfair, and be like a witness in her defense. And the roommate says no. And then the next scene is at a party with all of their friends, and they're just talking. And it is the most awkward thing ever.
I was literally alone watching this, and during that scene, I was like, "Oh my god!" Like I felt so uncomfortable. I was like,
Yeah.
I felt like I was there. I was like, I'm alone right now. Like I'm not in the movie. Like, why do I feel so uncomfortable? So good.
Yeah, it's definitely the movie that like. There's movies that make you squirm in their seat for various reasons, and this is one where you're just like, oh god, this is so it's like watching a train wreck, like,
and you just want her to stop, but you also like, I understand where she's coming from. That would be me, so I like her, but I just hated watching like her. I didn't hate it, I loved it, but it was hard.
It's so awkward and terrible, and you're right in that you just want her to stop, but then you're also like, but she's right. She's correct.
Yeah.
Like, I wish I had done this once.
Exactly.
Yeah. And then the other one I wanted to talk about very briefly is a film in some ways similar to yours because it feels very organic and indie, but a film called Actual People by a director called Kit Zohar. Mm-hmm. I think I'm saying that right. I hope I'm saying that right. Which is about a girl who is she's in university and she's in New York and she's very aimless and she's trying to like win the affection of a young boy. And I don't really know what else I can say about it that wouldn't spoil something about it. But it's a very frank and open look at a young girl's like city college away from home type experience. And it's another one that I feel will probably get picked up somewhere at some point.
Yeah, I gotta watch that one. That sounds like something I'd like.
Yeah, I mean, the nice thing about all of these films, the nice thing about a festival like Slamdance, as opposed to the concurrently occurring Sundance, is that literally every film you watch, you're like, I'm going to see that person somewhere else someday. Like, they are going to be famous for some reason. Yeah. It's very much, it's like, it's maybe not a fair comparison, but it's kind of like watching minor league baseball, and you're like, I'm going to see that guy in the big league someday. I'm going to see Avalon Fast. She's going to direct something big, and it's going to be great, and I'll be able to say I talked to her on my podcast.
Yeah, remember us when you're big and famous.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you. We'd appreciate that.
Yeah, we're local, so we're right here. Just,
I didn't know that until now, or you said it earlier. I was like, oh, cool, Vancouver.
Yep.
Yeah, does my accent not give it away? Like classic Vancouver accent.
Well, then maybe you guys know the podcast I used to work for. It's the Three Angry Nerds one. I don't know if you've heard of it.
I have heard of it.
Yeah. I have not listened to it. But...
You've calmed down. You're just a calm nerd now, not an angry nerd.
Right, yeah.
Good, good. Well, let's just break this seemingly awkward silence by saying, um, what is next for you, Avalon? Like, you have a screenplay in the works. You're going to this festival. Anything like? Are you? Because you're. Forgive me for outing your age on in public. But you're 20, 21, 22, so you're quite
22 in 2 weeks.
Oh well, happy birthday!
My birthday's in 2 weeks. When's your birthday?
My birthday's on the 18th.
February 18th. I'm 21st. February 21st. So we're last of the Pisces together. Good
yes.
Job.
Or I'm actually an Aquarius.
Oh, okay. I'm the beginning of Pisces. I just got in there.
Yeah. But yeah, finish. Maybe that wasn't the end of your question. I'm not sure.
No, I just like, are you going to be? Are you pursuing any? Are you going to like? Is like film school in your future, or are you just going to like go hard with making movies?
Yeah,
like learn by doing.
I'm not going to film school. Not happening. I feel like I got referred, somebody in a review the other day said that my movie reminded them that it was student thesis quality. And at first I was kind of pissed off. And then I was like, if people are saying this is student thesis quality, then that means that I'm like creating stuff that I would have been able to create if I went to school, and I did it when I was 19. So I'm like, that's fine by me. Like I like I just don't know what that would do for me right now. I've like, so many people have been like reaching out and wanting to kind of create a team for this next film, and then I think I'm just going to keep making movies and hopefully make a real career out of it, because there's just nothing else that I want to do right now. So
that's awesome.
That's very awesome.
As you're getting bigger now, worldwide scope of your filmmaking, are you, because with Honeycomb, it's just you're making just what you wanted to make, and the more people you have in your team, there's a danger of start thinking about the eyes that are actually going to watch this film. Like, do you think that your approach is going to change for your next project, that isn't just about all what you want it to be, but more about what might land in a different way?
Yeah, I think honestly, even with writing this new script, there was a little bit more of that. Oh, I want this to be really good, and I want people to feel something from this, and maybe have it a little bit more. What's the word? More widely accepted. That more people can find something in it that means something to them. But I don't know. I think that was just because that's how I was feeling, and that's what that story is about that I'm going to tell. And that, again, is just something that was inspired from my own life. So that's something I've been thinking about, is just in camp there's going to be a lot of really meaningful, like a heartwarming horror movie, if you will. Like
that's kind.
You can mix that. I mean, Mandy does that, right? Like stuff like that. But yeah, and then I do think that I will want to maybe try to take like a class or like a master class or something, just so I understand these like terms people use, honestly, because I've never directed professionally, or worked with a crew of people that are getting paid, and and I'm the boss, so I want to know what I'm talking about technically, because I have like vision and all that, but I want to be professional technically as well. So
yeah, the terminology is scary, isn't it?
Yeah.
When you don't know any of it, I always found that it's the biggest thing that's going to trigger my imposter syndrome, is when I don't know the names of lenses and things.
Exactly.
What did you film Honeycomb on? Because it looked really graded. Like, when it didn't look like a handheld camera. Do you know what I mean? It looked like you'd really like graded it.
Yeah,
this kind of ethereal quality. Like, what was the process of that?
We used an older camera that had a like really wide automatic zoom on it. I honestly don't remember what the camera was. It might have been like a Sony or something. But so that for those shots, I think that you're talking about, that's what we were using. And then we found out at like the end of the summer, we've got like 3 more scenes to shoot, and my friend's like, "Oh yeah, well, like I work with this guy Jacob, and he's got like a crazy good camera, and like he's really good at filming." I was like, "Well, where is he? Why isn't he here? We need him." And then I called him and was like, "Do you want to like hang out with us? Do you want to film these shots?" And just turns out he randomly had the like best camera ever. So we have these few shots. One of them is the one when the new girl shows up and the sun's coming in. She's got her hair. That was taken on this like excellent camera, and I'm like, that would have been really good to have around the whole time, but whatever. Live and learn.
I liked it though, but I liked it. Kind of fit in with having some claymation and then some like different quality or grading of footage, and that very kind of when you shot the poetry scene as well, that seemed like there was like a misting to it, and it sort of all these different qualities of shot sort of added to the state for me. So I liked it.
Thank you.
Yeah, it really added to the sort of scrappy quality of the film, which is something I really liked.
Yeah.
Like, one thing I really liked about the film, just for the record, is that, you know, I'm sure there's been some... I've read some reviews on Letterboxd where the review is basically like, friends got together and made a movie. What? And my reaction is like, these friends just got together and made a movie. That's fucking awesome.
Yeah.
And the things that contribute to that feeling are positives for me. So, yeah.
Yeah, it's funny. The reviews are funny because honestly, I do not handle like criticism very well. So people have been having to like hold me back from like commenting mean things to these people. Yeah, that's just
you
my
just go for it. Let it all out.
At this point, I'm like beginning to accept it. Where I'm like, yep, some people aren't going to get it. Some people are going to have weird thoughts on it. But we've been getting some lovely feedback as well. But it's really nice that you shared that as well. I'm just happy.
Well, just remember when someone says your movie's bad, just be like, "Oh, I can't wait to see your movie."
Yeah, exactly. Exactly.
Oh, okay. One last question before we wrap this up. But I watched the post credits or new credits. You mentioned someone actually got heatstroke in the shoot. And I remember thinking, oh, there's lots of like lines in this where the girl's like, "I'm so hot. I've never been this hot." Like, how much of that was ad lib, or was that actually the actors?
It was really hot. It was really hot that summer. Yeah, it would have been like 33 degrees and like just, you know, it's like open field. There was like no shade for a lot of it. We've got all these like, you know, technical equipment. They're in there like, especially the red dresses, like those were not those were like heavy like hot dresses. Yeah, Mari got heat stroke. She played Vicky, and she was so scared at the time because it was on our last day of shooting that she got her mom to call me. She was like, "Mari has heat stroke." She's like, "Come," and I was like, "Okay, it's okay, like we'll figure something out." Mari was so sad. And then, yeah, but it just felt really real. I was like, oh, God, what am I doing to these girls? Like, what's happening?
Yeah, they must be terrified of you. That's fantastic. Good job.
They all live with me now. We all live in a house together. So clearly I haven't burned too many bridges. Things are okay.
Well, there's your sequel right there. Just set the camera rolling and get them to talk about something.
There's a found footage film in there somewhere, for sure.
Yeah, definitely.
Good. Well, I think that's a good place to sort of wrap up. So thank you for joining us. We hope you have all of the success and in this and everything else you do moving forward.
Thank you so much.
Thanks for giving us some of your time. I'm really looking forward to what your next thing is.
Yeah, for sure. Me too.
Right.
Good. Well, and to everyone who's listening, thank you for listening. We appreciate and love all of you, all 12 of you. If you would like to support us, we're on your whatever podcast platform you're listening to. If you could give us a 5-star review or even a 4-star review, but a 5-star review would be great. And a subscribe. And if you'd like to support us a little more directly, we have a Patreon and Ko-fi as well.
So go do that, but we do appreciate you, all of you.
Yeah, we appreciate you either way. We record this on the unceded lands of the Musqueam, Tsleil-Waututh, and Squamish nations. And what am I forgetting? There's something I'm forgetting. What am I forgetting, Simon?
To thank Avalon again for joining us.
Yeah,
I don't know.
that's right.
It sounded good to me.
Yeah, I don't know.
Like we would say coming up next week, but we don't know that until the day before we podcast. So,
well, actually, I do know one of the things we're watching for next week, and it's it's an indie horror movie called Cosmic Dawn.
Oh yes, we are. I'm looking forward to that.
Yeah. So, good.
Okay,
well,
good
thank you
stuff.
for listening. We love you all. Thank you again, Avalon. Say goodbye, Avalon.
Bye.
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 Bye. We love you. Bye.